thank you guys for attending our panel here. It's nice to see the mix of men to women, actually, in the crowd. Today's panel is about leadership in women in digital media. I'm going to introduce our panelists first. Maybe I should introduce myself first.
Yay.
My name is, thank you. My name is Michael Wayne. I'm the CEO, founder and CEO of a company called DECA, which is a women's media company.
Woo.
Thank you, thank you. I also was honored to be the chair of the IAWTV Board of Directors. So this is exciting that the IAWTV has some panels here, which is really exciting. And I'm honored to be a part of this panel because the panelists are fantastic, very accomplished, successful women. Two things, just so everyone is clear. Today's conversation is going to revolve, two things I want to clarify.
Hey guys in the back of the room.
Having a panel.
Who was that? Is
Now
it God?
we can hear you.
Okay, good. Can you hear me now? All right, two things I want to clarify. What we're going to be talking about mostly today is online video and leadership in general. And I want to clarify something else, and that is that I am not a woman. Thank you. I brought him for that. No, I'm just kidding. This is total aside. So let me introduce the panelists here. First, all the way, well, let's see. You didn't sit according to the way that I was supposed to. It's okay. So I'm just gonna go through here, and we'll start to my right with Beth. And I'm not picking favorites, even though Beth works with me at DECA. Beth oversees programming at DECA, and so she's responsible for all of our video content, as well as managing talent relationships. Before joining DECA, Beth was at a startup called honeyshed.com, which was funded by Publicis, where she produced a lot of beauty and fashion content. That was a very interesting video website that also had a lot of e-commerce to it. Before that, Beth was a producer at Home Run Entertainment, which was an independent production company producing a lot of lifestyle content. And before that, Beth, you were at Scripps for 7 years as an on-staff producer. Is it hard to hear you? Can you hear me out there?
You're much better when you're closer to the mic. Maybe you should hold it.
I'm kind of like too tall for the mic. That's the problem.
Sorry that you're too tall for the mic.
Yeah, there we go. How's that? That's better. Okay. So Beth Manach, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, Sheri. Hi. Got to find your bio here. There you are, Sheri Bryant. So to Beth's right is Sheri Bryant. Sheri started her career at the Walt Disney Company as a financial analyst and then joined Hollywood Pictures, where she started her career as an entertainment executive. So this is kind of fun. We have someone who started as a financial analyst on our panel here. After Disney, Sheri became the director of development and production at Image Organization, where during her tenure there, the company produced plenty of films with CBS, HBO, Lifetime, and Artisan. As an independent producer, and through your company, Intelligent Life Media, you've had great success of all kinds, with all sorts of projects, including initiatives with Lionsgate, MGM, Sci-Fi Channel, and Discovery. And most recently, Sheri joined forces with Felicia Day and Evey, who's at the end of our panel, on a new YouTube channel called Geek and Sundry, which I'm really looking forward to hearing about, actually. Outside of that, Sheri is active with nonprofit work, serving on the board of the Coalition of Asian Pacifics in Entertainment, as well as a trustee for the, and I'm going to get this wrong, Feigenbaum Foundation? Is that close?
Pretty good.
Okay, thank you. She's also a recipient of the NATB LATV Diversity Fellowship, which is very exciting. Okay, yeah, thank you, thank you. Amber J. Lawson sits next to Sheri on the right there. Amber J. Lawson is an accomplished content programming and development executive and all-around new media expert. Most recently, Amber was the head of video programming at AOL. Prior to AOL, Amber worked in senior roles at Bubblegum, Mania TV, and National Lampoon, as well as developed content with studios including Universal, Warner Brothers, and Fox. Amber's been very, very active in both the TV Academy as well as the IAWTV, serving as the IAWTV's award committee chair. Tomorrow night is our inaugural IAWTV Awards. How are we? Are we all thumbs up, ready to rock with that? Awesome, awesome.
I was just in the script meeting, yes.
Excellent, excellent. She's spoken at too many conferences to mention here. I would go through a list of 20 conferences. Also involved in some philanthropic work on something called Transforming the World Through Comedy, which I'm looking forward to hearing more about as well. And to Amber's right is Kim Evey, who was born in Seoul, South Korea, which is very exciting. I brought that up. The reason I brought that up is because in her bio it says she moved around a lot as a child, living in 7 cities before the age of 12. So I'm very intrigued by that. But ended up in New Mexico, then Seattle, where she started an improv group and her career as an actor. In 2000, Kim moved to LA and has been working as an actor and a writer and a web series producer since moving to LA. She's appeared in a lot of TV. Television appearances include Shark, Boston Legal, ER, JAG, The OC, Judging Amy, Crossing Jordan, LA Dragnet, Philly, lots of TV, which is great. She co-produces The Guild with Felicia Day, which is one of the most successful web series to date, as well as some other really fantastic web series. Shira Lazar is going to be joining us in a second, so I'll give you her bio very quickly. She's the Ryan Seacrest of web television. That's what it says on her site. We'll just leave it at that. No, I'm just kidding. Shira's the host and executive producer of a weekly live interactive show called What's Trending. She's also the host of a YouTube talk show called Partners Project, where she interviews the biggest YouTube stars. She was named Fast Company's 2011 Most Influential Women in Technology, and there you are. Come on up. I'm giving your bio, and your Fast Company's 2011 Most Influential Women in Technology, and Huffington Post Women in Tech to follow on Twitter. I think I follow you on Twitter, Shira, which is nice. Shira has been the face of the biggest live streams on the web, including the Oscars and the Grammys. She can be found on Fox and CNN and Bloomberg and CBS quite regularly. She's a native of Montreal but lives in Los Angeles and you don't have a funny accent anymore, so that's good. So this is our esteemed panel. We're talking about leadership, we're talking about digital media, and we're talking about some of the challenges and some of the perspectives of leadership, particularly as it relates to being a woman. So I'm going to start the panel off by asking a simple question, which is, what does being a great leader mean to you as leaders in your respective fields? And who wants
Who's going to lead that off?
Yeah, well, Amber, obviously you're going to lead it off because you...
Because I have a loud mouth,
yeah.
Right? What do I think it means to be a leader? I think it's... Let me tell you what I think it is.
Let's hear, Amber. What do you think being a great leader?
I think there's 2 types of leaders. One is someone who has great vision and can rally groups and a group mentality and move in a direction. And then I think there are leaders who actually have vision and can activate that group into doing something. And that's what I like to think the category is where I like to live in. Is rallying groups of people and creating a mass kind of sensibility and then being able to activate it into tangible physical results.
Yeah, and getting people, to root for you. I think it's, when you have an idea, you have to think about it not just for yourself, but how can other people be helped by it and be empowered by it. And also, I think creating some sort of sense of fun and culture around what you do, because I go back to someone who I really look up to as a great leader, Tony Hsieh, who's the CEO of Zappos. And he creates such a culture where people want to be there. They feel like they're growing personally and professionally from there. And they're not just doing things and working because it's on a list and checking things off. They're there because they see his vision. And that becomes their vision as well. And so that could definitely be difficult because a lot of people just come in and they want a paycheck and we all have rent to pay. But how do you make it so that job and that project doesn't become just a paycheck? It becomes much more and something that they, you have your employee come in or your team and you say, like, what are your goals and how can we help you get there through this project and what we're working on as well?
I've got to share with Beth from now on because I can't cut you off if I don't have a mic. Okay, I know. We only have Shira for 20 minutes, so.
Okay,
Yeah,
you
it's
want me to go?
okay.
Okay. I think for me, it kind of comes down to three things that I think about when thinking about what makes a good leader. And I think the first one is trust. I think people who report into you have to trust you, and that even becomes more important, I think, than respect. I think respect comes after they trust you. And one of the things that I think adds to a lot of trust is being able to mobilize and being able to share your vision with people to get them excited about it the way that you are excited about. And that leads me to the second thing, which is being a good saleswoman. I think being a good leader and being a woman is you got to have some showmanship. You have to be charismatic to get people excited about what you are ultimately trying to pitch them. And my grandfather, who sold mixers his whole life, always would say it's a lot harder to sell an idea than it is to sell a product. And I think that's really true. And if you can sell an idea to people, you can really, I think, get them to follow you and be a good leader. And then the third thing is really just more of a practical day-to-day thing, and that's accessibility and being accessible to the people that report into you. Because in order to empower people to do their jobs, you can't hold them up. So if somebody needs me, needs my time, needs me to approve something, needs me to sign off on something, being accessible and available for them so that they can move forward and do what they have to do.
Does your present boss fulfill those criteria?
I would say yes, very much so, especially on the sales side, the consummate sales.
And on that note,
That was a rhetorical question. Sheri, what do you think about leadership and
I would
what's a great
agree
leader?
with what everyone said. I would also add, I mean, for me, great leaders have great ideas, and that's the pinnacle of leadership for me. And then the second thing is having the courage to do something about it. So I feel like a lot of the great leaders today, whether it's technology or politics or whatever it is, they have courage to go out and take their ideas, gather other people behind them, and do something about it.
And I think the good news is we're in a space where you can lead. You can choose a path, and now it is ripe. I think the mindset of the globe allows leaders to emerge. And
Do you think that this space lends itself to women leaders more, or gives more opportunity to women than maybe other marketplaces or other industries before new media?
Well, I definitely think there's something about new media. Like, can you hear me? New media and like the multitasking of it. I think that as women and the authenticity of caring, and that really lends itself to new media and social media. And I think that's why you see a lot of women flourishing in this space, because it's about, you know, doing a lot of things at once, and naturally we're used to doing that. I mean, I think inherently that's part of being a woman. You're taking care of the home and, you know, working and doing everything. And I also think, yeah, it's a matter of listening, contributing, and I think naturally, you know, obviously everyone's different, but women are definitely much more, I think, you know, touchy-feely, passionate, and sensitive and caring. And I think, you know, the web rewards people like that who really put themselves out there and are okay with being vulnerable.
Kim, what do you think? Sorry, Amber.
I think the key to what Shira just said is passion.
Yeah.
I think that the web is a place where people who are passionate about whatever it is that is close to them, you know, that it's a place where you can flourish and really take advantage of that. And in terms of leadership, I had something and now I've forgotten it. No, I know what it was. Being a good communicator is really huge in being a good leader. And, you know, making all the people that work for you as the little pieces of this global thing feel like they are valued as individuals and contributing. Because sometimes, you know, it's hard to feel like you're part of the thing if you're just the person taking out the trash, but you want everybody to really feel like, you know, I can't take it out, so you're taking it out. So, you know, from the very bottom to the very top, everybody's contributing equally in some way, and I think it's important for people to remember that.
So is there a particular challenge that you've overcome, in a specific example of maybe a challenge that you've overcome where you've shown great leadership? And then as part of that, was the challenge related to being a woman? Sort of want to throw a little zinger in there. Amber, do you have a particular specific challenge that you, what?
I'm trying to think.
Well, we'll move on. Sheri, do you have something that you can think of a specific challenge? Or anyone. I mean, I don't want to put people on the spot if you guys feel like...
I think the biggest challenge of my career came when I was in production. I'm not sure if you guys have experienced a lot of production, but in '05, I was shooting a film in Louisiana, and we were hit by Hurricane Katrina. So you can imagine, you know, with the 50 people and having to deal with something very unexpected and of course tragic. So I think that really brought out any leadership that I might have, and hopefully I've even developed things further since then. But just trying to rally people through being scared, through the logistics of getting people out of there, things like that. That was like a big challenge in my career. And then there's the little challenges of, you know, every day that we face, whether it's, you know, working with Kim and trying to hire new people and finding the best people for the job, or, you know, I feel like we have challenges every day, whether big or small, and just a matter of reaching down deep and really pulling out, you know, what you can from yourself.
Do you think it's how you handled Katrina, that you handled it differently because you're a woman? Do you feel like your thought process was, I think kind of that was the second part of his question, was, you know, different?
Yeah, I actually do. I think there's a lot of overlap, whether you're a man or a woman, but I do feel like, and I think Shira mentioned this, the sort of the caring side, like maybe I was more sensitive to people's feelings, you know?
This is becoming a sexist panel. And women have more empathy.
Well, it is about women in leadership, so.
But for the most part, I think not, you know, maybe in a couple different aspects.
A silly story. This is sort of a silly story, but it is related to being a woman. I was doing a shoot in Alaska once with a crew, very sort of tough, salty crew, and we were going up to feature a very exclusive fishing resort in Alaska, and it was supposed to be very high-end, 4-star, and this is how we got the crew to shoot with us for low rates. So we thought, oh, it's going to be really fabulous, you're going to love it. So we get up there, and the hotel manager met us at the dock, and he thought I was going to be a man, he thought it was all men, and led us to our accommodations, which were all together in a little fishing cabin, all 4 of us. Bunk beds, the whole bit. And so I'm looking around, I'm looking at the crew, they're looking at me, and they're sort of wondering where's our 4-star accommodations, and they've put us in like the staff fishing shack. And the hotel manager looked at me and could tell that I was a little shocked and said, oh, okay, yeah, this may not work. If this doesn't work, I can see if the captain's suite is available. And the owner usually stays in there, and maybe we can see if that's available. And at first I thought, oh yeah, the captain's suite, yes, take me there immediately. But I looked at my crew and I just knew like I could not do that. And I think part of being a good leader is when the going gets tough, that you don't pull rank and that you do kind of bear down in the trenches with everybody. And we just had a really funny, giggly week. We had a great shoot, and I think it really allowed them to trust me and really know that I wasn't going to leave them high and dry in the fishing shack by themselves. I was going to tough it out with them. So anyway.
Do you think, and this is sort of a follow-up to that, and I'll pose it to everyone, that as you manage your careers and as you manage teams and as you manage production groups, that the management style of men and women are different? And why, if so?
I guess this has been, like, this project, What's Trending, was my first time really managing a staff. Usually, you know, I was hired as a host or I helped, but it wasn't like that was my project. This is my baby that I'm taking care of, and it's definitely something different. And because of it's my baby, I could, you know, it could get sensitive. Like I could get, because I'm so close to it, and that sometimes is what's hard, you know, unless you're like a super tough. I could get a bit sensitive, and in front of my staff sometimes let go in ways that I don't want to, and that could be a scary thing. So, you know, I think it's about managing, you know, your emotions and how close you are to a project sometimes, and realizing like it's okay to feel like it's you know, you could give it your all, but being able to take a breather if you feel like you're getting too, you know, emotional over something, because you're ultimately not going to really communicate properly in that moment. And I think those are things that I've learned. You know, just, yeah, when the going gets tough, when we go through some sort of crazy damage control, which we went through this year, that, you know, sticking with your vision and focus and making your staff realize, like, we're all in this to win it, including the leaders and the creators, and that no one is going away, and keeping them motivated and excited and inspired to be part of it is so important on a daily basis. And also taking people aside individually and saying, like, what are your, what issues do you have with, you know, what questions do you have, to make sure that, you know, no one's worrying about things. The last thing you need is like gossip in between employees. So definitely there's been like little things that have happened this year that I've never experienced, but it's also very empowering when we have, you know, a whole staff of 6 people coming up and, you know, they're putting out, you know, putting out themselves because they believe in what you're doing. Yeah. And when you step out of that, that's amazing. And that's what continues to excite me.
You know, it's part of kind of an interesting thing. We didn't talk about it on our caller this week, but Kim, you and Felicia co-produced The Guild, and you're obviously both women, but you're dealing with content that is about gaming. I mean, it's stories, obviously. It's not about, but, you know, obviously World of Warcraft is a very, very heavily male game. And I just wonder, like, what were the challenges with that, or what was that like, kind of being women creating content that speaks to a pretty big majority of men, I would say?
You know, it's not something that we ever really thought about like that, which is, I think, part of, I don't think, honestly, with the Guild we thought about much in the beginning, which is why it was able to succeed the way that it did. And surprisingly, when we look at, you know, our YouTube analytics and things, like, you know, we have a pretty high percentage of women that actually now do watch the show, as opposed to, you know, the amount of women that actually game in real life. So, you know, I think the biggest challenge is there are definitely gaming sites and forums and places that are, you know, young male driven, and it was harder for Felicia to go there and get, you know, any sort of response, because there's still guys, you know, playing games who, you know, they don't want a sitcom about gamers. They think that's dumb. So, you know, but overall I think the global appeal has, you know, it didn't really impact us creating it. You know? Do
you think the show would have been dramatically different if 2 men starred and produced in it?
I think it would have been really different. Yeah, I was working, you know, in a writers group with some guys who were doing something similar about a paper gaming group, you know, and yeah, the sensibility, it was very, very, very different. You know, it's more snarky, less character driven, you know, and just, yeah, the Guild, I think in its heart, and the reason that people love it is because it's about people trying their best, who are, you know, who doubt themselves, who are not perfect, and, you know, and that's something that Felicia really embraced, and, you know, but without making fun of it. And I think the things that I saw from the guys, it is a little more making fun of it, or more archetypes that are, I don't know, just somehow not quite as grounded, so.
So one thing we talked about, and this is, again, we don't want to dive into just total gender wars here, but I think it's really interesting, the idea that women potentially manage a little differently, and they also compete a little differently, and they also compete with men differently than they compete with women. And to be a great leader, obviously there's a lot of conflict, and there's a lot of, you know, you have to deal with a lot of naysayers, you have to deal with a lot of competition, and I'm curious, you know, in your experiences, how have you dealt with competition amongst your peers that are women versus men? Amber, you're looking at me with a great look there, and I'm wondering what's going through your mind.
I'm a bulldog. I just don't stand for it. But that's my style, I guess.
I feel like women are more frenemies than men. Guys, it'll be obvious if they don't like each other.
They just have their thing and then they're done.
Yeah.
And they really have.
And they can talk through it. They'll be like, it's business, it's fine. Whereas women, I feel like even if it's business, they can't just be like, oh, it's just business. It ultimately, sometimes this is so cliche and generalizing, but yeah. I mean,
well, I know for myself personally, it's harder. One of the things I've had to learn, this is going off topic a little bit, but one of the things that I've had to learn as a leader or a manager is to take sort of the empathetic side out of it. It's, you know, if somebody's doing their job, it's great. If they're not, it doesn't matter that I feel bad that I have to say, you know what, you're not doing this great.
Do you think women feel more empathetic than men? And is that?
Yeah, and it depends on the person. But yeah, I'll feel bad. I'll be like, oh, but they tried, and it'll be like, no, they deserve to be. We should fire them. We don't have any room for B or C people. We want A people, and that's.
I probably let people linger a little too long.
Yeah, we do too.
But it just depends on the person, obviously.
Yeah. So Beth and Sheri, you both have worked at big companies. Most of you guys have, but Sheri, you were at Disney early on. You were development, now you're independent. What's sort of the difference of being at a big company, competition men, women, management styled men, women, and now being independent?
Well, I started out in a field, finance, which is pretty much all men. You know, I'd be maybe one woman in a room of 15. So from a very young age, I got used to just being with men and sort of treating everyone the same. So whether it was competing against them or, you know, the random other woman, I don't see much difference for me personally. And it's very personal between men and women in terms of competition. When it comes to management, I think there's many, many differences. And I've had 2 bosses in my life, and they were both men, and they were both horrible. and I'm not saying I wouldn't have had women managers that were also horrible, but that sort of early on in my career and coming from the corporate world gave me some different perspective, I think. And when I became more of an entrepreneur, everyone was kind of in the same pot to me. So I don't really treat men or women differently, but I do agree with these guys in terms of women do tend to have more, try to understand the other person more, whether it's a man or a woman, and maybe give them a little more breaks, or, you know, before, say, you let someone go.
I think that's true, definitely, the difference between a big company and a small company. I think in a big company, people are a lot more competitive because it is such a big company and people need to carve out their little fiefdoms, where I feel like in a smaller company, everybody's sort of more supportive anyway. So even if you don't totally agree with someone, either you're managing that's a woman or even a colleague, you kind of tell them in a more supportive way than I think may play out in a bigger company. Yeah.
Is there something prescriptive that you can tell in your career at this point? You talked, Sheri, about having 2 horrible bosses, talked about different things. Along the way, what have you learned that have become kind of guiding principles for being a leader, you know, in your particular field, or how you manage people?
I just want to say, and I'm really curious when we do get to audience interaction, to kind of hear what people here are doing or trying to do. Like, I feel like leadership and entrepreneurship are very closely tied, and people that strike out on their own are really trying to be leaders in whatever they're trying to do. So I would just, you know, and what I've learned over the course of my career as I've just gotten way more into entrepreneurship is, you know, have the courage to go out and do what you want to do. And so when we do get to audience, you know, I'd love to hear from people, like, really, what are you trying to do? And give whatever thoughts we can from our experience up here to try to make things happen.
I don't know, but I'm going to press a little bit on this. I know you want to hear from everyone else, but I kind of want to hear from you guys. I'm going to drill down. Like Amber, I'm going to go back to you for a second. Sorry, I know, Sheri, you have something to add. But Amber, you were at a very political company.
Who, me?
Yes, at AOL. And I'm sure you saw many, many different types of managers. I'm sure you saw many different types of personalities. There must be some reinforcement going through a company like that of things that work and don't, and what you take away from that. And
I had big lessons learned.
And what are those?
Hard work is not rewarded. I'm being absolutely bluntly serious. Big moves, whether they make sense or not, that make headlines, keep people in their jobs. Learn who has the power and saddle up with them, and you make decisions based on their decisions. And that's how to survive a big company.
And in a small company, in a startup, what are your prescriptive?
At a startup, you have to voice your gut. You need to share your thoughts if you're going down a wrong path. And it may be disliked, but ultimately services the entire company. I find startups to be like summer camp or theater camp, where everybody wants to put on a show and everybody has a part to play, and they all go and do their thing, but yet it's a team. And I mean, like at Mania TV, it was a family, and it was exciting, and we worked all day and all night just to try to crack that nut. And it was fun. And there were no wrong answers. There was just trying to make it up and figure this out. And that's exciting. So it's much more collaborative when you're in a small company. Every voice is heard. Every voice matters.
Anyone want to?
I feel like they're waiting to throw you under the bus. They're waiting for you to make the wrong move.
At a large company?
At a big company.
Yeah, it's a lot of politics.
Yeah.
It's like you're constantly campaigning.
I need to head back to my. Oh yeah, I'm heading back to my room.
Okay.
So I guess it's like, what did you learn? What have you learned, or
Well,
what tips?
I would say not
Tips
what
and
tips.
tricks?
I mean, I guess maybe this is a good time to ask sort of this last question. You can lead us off. But like, who do you respect as a leader? Do you have a mentor? Who is it?
Yeah, it's funny because I was talking to someone. I recently met this woman, Porter Gale, who was the former CMO for Virgin America, who's been a complete inspiration and is a growing mentor of mine. But I was telling her about my story and my career thus far, and she goes, "Well, I realized a lot of your turning points didn't involve women. It was always a male making that decision." And I was like, "Oh my God, I guess that's true." I mean, I've had a lot of peers or women that have been super supportive and there for me, but not necessarily people like giving me that first gig. And so and that's kind of, I hope as time continues that changes, because I know there's so many women around me that inspire me, but they're not necessarily the people that have created opportunities for me. Like, you know, I'm really about the DIY movement. Like, obviously, if you have an idea, make it happen on your own. The tools are out there. And yeah, make it so other people are inspired by your ideas too. Figure out a way that other people can contribute and find value in what you bring to the table and what your goals are. And so, yeah, Porter, I mean, I'm surrounded by a lot of incredible female talents like here, but I would hope that all of us figure out ways to help other women, because I know personally, like, I haven't necessarily had a big female mentor, but I constantly get emails and I'm always responding to them, and I try as much as I can to, you know, reply back or jump on a phone call with people to help them with, you know, how do you become a host, or, you know, if they're in school, and give them advice. And I think it's a responsibility. I know, you know, it can get maybe sometimes, if you don't have a lot of time, annoying, some people might think, but I think if you have an opportunity to help people, you should, using your platform.
So before you get out of here, one inspirational leader that you admire.
Admire? Well, I admire a lot of people in broadcasting. Obviously, like back in the day, the Oprahs, the Katie Courics, Barbara Walters and Ryan Seacrest. I really look up to people who, because I'm a broadcast geek and an interview geek. I love interviewers. I look up to the people that not only were taking gigs, but created brands for themselves that were, bigger than them. It created more opportunity. They became a producer too, an executive producer. They discovered other talent and used their platform to bring a spotlight to other people. And I think that's really powerful, just thinking beyond you and what's next.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you.
And by the way, for everyone here, we're doing a live show tomorrow at 11 a.m. Venetian showroom. Go stop by, check it out for what's trending. Thank you so much. I apologize.
No worries, no worries. Go back to
in the middle. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Beth, mentors.
Mentors, yes, I had a very good mentor when I started production. I had no production experience, didn't even go to school for it. I started as a production assistant, really at the bottom, so I had that kind of going against me. I also was working on my dad's show at the time, so there was some nepotism, so I had that strike against me. And I was working with this man who was an old-time producer. He used to work on the Mike Douglas Show, Entertainment Tonight, one of those real old seasoned guys who wasn't used to working with young, sort of peppy little upstarts. And he put me through the paces. And one time I went into his office and I had just sort of become an associate producer and was booking a whole week of shows and went in to kind of pitch him my whole plan. And I had made the mistake of kind of organizing things based on logistics, like, oh, and this location is close to this location and this talent we can get for the rate, and sort of going on and on and on. And he looked at me and took his glasses off and sort of put my schedule down and said, Beth, is this person, is she best for the show? And I was like, yeah, best for the show. No, probably not. It's probably best for the schedule. And I think up until that point, he would always say that to me, and I think of that today, like any little decision. Even yesterday, we were dealing with kind of a content issue, and I had to think, is this what's best for the show? And that has always stuck with me, and I worked for that man for almost 7 years, and he really, I think, turned me into the producer that I am today, because he always believed in me before I had the confidence to believe in myself, and I think that's always the best manager, the best leader, the best mentor, someone who just keeps raising the bar, and you just have to kind of keep rising up to meet it.
Great. Sheri, how important are mentors?
I think mentors are very, very important, and unfortunately for me, I've never had one.
Well, we need to find you one, Sheri. Let's go get one for you.
Anyone? No, I've never had one. I think mainly because I've been out on my own for so long, and my couple experiences at bigger companies, there just wasn't a true mentor figure for me. I try to mentor other people. I belong to a couple other groups, so I like to give back in that regard. And I think someday I might still have a mentor. The closest person really to a mentor to me, and really the only person I listen to, is my mom.
That's okay, that's cool.
So, I count Mom as a mentor. She was a woman too. She's Japanese and she came from Japan, learned English, and she went to Stanford and got a computer science degree, and against all odds, she was kind of in a man's world as well and just forged ahead on her own, and I admire her a lot.
Amber, who's your mentor?
Interesting, because I'm kind of in the same boat. I really haven't had a lot of mentors in my life. I would say I do find spiritual guidance and things like that, but a real person in business. The first person who took me really under their wing was Peter Hoskins at Mania TV. He put me in a boardroom. I had to be accountable for stuff, and learned on the fly. And so it was a real birthing, A, into the community, and B, in how business is done, because I didn't go to school for business. I have a theater degree. So, it was, he helped me navigate that world. And frankly, Stefan Goldby, we were a team, and that's really where I got my kind of sea legs. Cool. But I think you can have mentors at any point in your life, and I'm certainly open to mentors.
Kim?
Yeah, I'd like one too.
Okay.
I joined the PGA kind of specifically to find a mentor and to get free screeners. But
screeners are awesome, right?
There you go. That's great.
I think actually the closest person that I've had as a mentor is sitting on the stage. It's Sheri. She's really helped me a lot because I started doing this as an actor. I had no idea what any of my job entailed, and I still learn every day what my job entails. I do a lot of reading, but I would meet with Sheri and just go okay, here's what's going on. I don't know if I'm doing this right or this right or this right, and she just, because she's produced so many features, and the way we shoot the Guild is very similar to shooting a feature, so a very low budget feature. So it's been really helpful to me. And then she still wanted to work with me after all that, so I must be doing something right.
Well, great. So this is great. There are a few people still left in the audience. I know it's kind of people running around. So yes, there are lots of gambling. I know people got to hit the tables. But thank you guys for coming. Thank you for your feedback and your thoughtful responses to the questions. And if anyone has any questions, please feel free to come up and ask them after the panel. So thank you guys.
Come ask.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, dynamite.
Good luck on the panel at the table.